DJ PK, we're joined now by David Locke. His weekly appearance brought to you by the Murdoch Auto Team. David, good morning.
My goodness gracious, it must be another great week coming to an end because I get to talk to David James and Patrick Kinahan, and that makes me happy. And they've had their football dose with Big 12 Media Days, and they're feeling that they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train, and they're in good moods, and it's awesome.
Yes, it is.
And I got a basketball junkie Jones filled for me this week. Then I'm going to go to Vegas to get more. So, yeah, we're good.
We were just debating that. Do you go to Vegas? And if you do you broadcast games? Do you go merely to see people, talk to people, and gather information? What is your plan?
So I never go to Vegas. I, abhor going to Vegas. And I'm going to Vegas. So, yeah, I'm going to just watch. I feel like we have enough players that are playing that matter that I want to go see 2 more games. And I'm going to try to see a bunch of people and talk to people around the league. In all honesty, we have a few less people coming through our town right now with where our team stands than we did a few years back. So some of my people I've known for 25, 30 years in the league or that I'm close with, if I want to see them, I probably got to go to Vegas to see them.
Well, I think that if you're ever going to go to Vegas, this is the time because the number of players that could be on the roster is now. Not the time of year. No. I meant from the basketball perspective.
Yeah, no, I just felt like, and I haven't gone in a long time, but I just did feel like the combination of the amount of players we have that might be playing that matter, interaction with people around the league, interaction with our own people, I thought there was a real value to building some more relationships being down there. And so
how much are the tickets?
The team has been nice enough to take care of the tickets for me. I'm taking care of my own travel. I'm paying my own way down there though. So not cheap.
It's not?
Nope.
Well, fly Allegiant, man.
Drive it.
I could have. That might have been. I had. All those things sound great until you have very specific time windows you're trying to travel, right? Like I'm specifically trying to get down there for Monday night's game, and I'm trying to specifically get out after Wednesday's game. So
yeah, gotcha.
Curious the impression that players made on you during the Salt Lake Summer League, and we might as well start with Keontae, who scored a bunch of points, but lighting up a bunch of people in the Summer League who aren't going to be in the NBA may or may not be telling. What did you think?
So Philly's 2 guys aren't terrible though. And Scottie Pippen Jr. is not terrible. Those are actually about as high level of. He wasn't beating Frankie Ferrari, right? Last year, Frankie Ferrari was I think playing for Memphis. Dowden and Council, and they put G.G. Jackson on him a little bit, and Scottie Pippen Jr. Those are all potential rotation players in the NBA. So I thought it was good. I thought he looked like the best player on the floor, and he should. I thought that was really good. That he was clearly the best player out there, and that's what he should have looked like after the amount of time he had on the NBA floor last year and those experiences. And then I think he's learning how he's able to score. And, one thing that was obvious in the first kind of 45 games last year is he just shot from everywhere. At any moment. He was just all over the court with his shots. And actually, if you think about great players, they're not. They have their spots on the floor. They get to their spots. They take certain shots. And you're beginning to see him figure out what those are. And one of the things I really liked late in game 3 was, he had kind of got into this, I'm going to drive, duck my shoulder into you, probably draw contact and a foul, or I'm going to throw in that 7-foot banker or little floater. And then the rim actually opened up for him twice, and he went all the way to the rack, once right-handed, once left-handed. And that said to me that he was actually making decisions. He hadn't predetermined things. He was actually reading the floor and making a decision. That's a nice step. I thought Keontae was good. I thought that was encouraging. His ball's got to go in, right? The biggest story on him coming up next year is going to be that, he was a 39% field goal percentage guy, 33% from the 3, I think is what it turned out to be, or 34. But he's in a danger zone there. The guys who have done that in their rookie years in the NBA was put into some really, unforgiving circumstances without guys around him. And so I think you can wait and see. But if we're 41 games into the season, he's shooting 39% again, we got a problem.
I'm interested to see which guys can play with each other as far as being in the rotation together in the backcourt, because you look at Collier and it looks like it might be something there. But then you also got Sexton, you got George, and Clarkson is still on the team. Who do you see is good for the other guy to be on the floor together? You see what I'm saying there?
Yeah, I do. And I'm actually really on this because last year, I think I said multiple times you can't play Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson together. And then the Jazz did. And it actually worked a little bit. So I think you have to have floor spacing, right? So you cannot have two non-shooters on the floor at the same time in the NBA. So if Walker's on the floor, everybody else has to shoot. And frankly, if John Collins is on the floor, everybody else has to shoot. John's better shooter, but everyone's got to be able to shoot. So that's kind of my level right now. But otherwise, the way we're playing with handoffs and pin downs and a lot of pick and roll and drive and kick, like I'm beginning to think more people can play together than I previously thought. Like, if Sexton and Clarkson, I think, are like mirror images of each other, or, they're actually not. They're the exact same. Like they play the same way. I actually think, if you've got an open floor and you got multiple drive and kick guys, then that's fine. So I'm a little bit more believing that guys can play together in almost any circumstance than I used to.
I thought Collier looked really comfortable out there, and I thought he got into the paint a lot. And PK immediately said, yeah, it's like an Andre Miller thing. How much of that did you see? How much of that do you buy? How much are you in wait-and-see mode?
Well, I really liked Isaiah Collier coming out of the draft because when I watched draft players in a draft that had some deficiencies, there were only like 4 or 5 guys who did something super elite. So Reed Shepherd shot it better than anyone else. Ryan Dunn out of Virginia got into people and defended better than anyone else. Collier's crossover shake was as good as anyone I've seen in the league. Like that first step, that move was anybody in the draft. Like it was right up there of the best. If you gave me, the list of the 5 or 10 best single skills I saw out of any player, it was up there. And so that did not surprise me at all. Now, what did surprise me was the 2 pull-up jump shots, because I didn't think I saw that at USC. He does not have a floater game yet. So everything is going to be to the rim and contact, and that's going to be a hard way to live in the NBA. The layup is a hard shot in our league because guys are really tall and really big. And so I think he'll have to figure that out of what, again, kind of where I talked about Keontae making a decision. Keontae's making some decision about 9 feet out to figure out what he's going to do. Like Collier's going to have to learn how to make that decision. That's where I do think Collier's probably ready. He'll probably play 12 or 14 minutes a night. G League might be really important for him to actually learn where to make decisions and how to make decisions. Maybe not if there aren't enough rim defenders to actually bother him and he just turns out he can go to the rim every time, then it won't be as useful. But if there is decision making, if the league's got enough rim defenders that he has to make that decision, I think that would be good for him. He's never had to make that decision before because he always can just beat somebody and then get to the rim. I thought his passing vision was great. There were 2 plays I loved out of him on the third night. One was a left side drive where he kicked it 1 pass removed. And what I mean by that is instead of making the obvious pass to the corner, he actually lifted it up so that the natural play would have been you go to the corner and the corner rotates to the guy up top and the defense is kind of ready for that. And he passed it 1 more removed, which is the not natural pass to make. And it means the defense is now even for the other one. Was he called Filipowski up for a pick, told him which side to set it on, drove with his left hand into the lane, flared it back to Filipowski for the 3, and it was really clear that he had that set up from the very second he had the ball in his hands, and he called for Filipowski, and that's what he wanted. And that showed me a great understanding of the game. So I thought there was a lot to like out of Isaiah Collier. I don't know if I'd said it with you guys, but I thought it was ironic. I had said when people had asked me about him in the draft, I was like, I really, really like him. It's hard to get the 3-point shots that hit the glass and no rim out of your mind because he does this. Like he takes this 3 that he misses so badly that it literally hits the glass and no rim on the far side. And it sounded kind of funny when I said it, and then he promptly did it during summer league. So he does have. I think it's that he takes a set shot and his shooting window closes on him faster than he thinks, and then he's got to change the arc on the shot, and then it just goes wild.
Yeah, but isn't that better then because you don't want it clanging off the rim and you can get a long rebound and the other team can get out?
There you go. I love it.
Yeah.
You have always been the eternal optimist. I mean, you are Mr. Happy.
So it's going to come off, allow your defense to get set up. So I think the guy's just a smart player,
I'm with you. I mean, he did. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I'm watching him in college. I actually literally had this experience. I was watching his college tape. It's like the second game I was watching him. And I mean, I was just warming up and liking him more and more by the minute. And I think the first game I watched was a Cal game. I later on texted Mark Madsen about it. He was like, we could not stop him. We could not keep him out of the paint. And I was like, no, you really couldn't. Like, it was really awesome. It's an overtime game. And then I watched another one, and I was like, it might have been Colorado. I'm assuming it was against Colorado, though I don't think he played one of those games. And I was like really warming up, and then all of a sudden he took this three, and it hits the glass, no rim, misses by like 5 feet as though like a hurricane came through the building. And it was like, it totally just zapped me like, oh no, it's not all perfect. Well, it's not all perfect. Like, he went 29th. Great. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. From that perspective. Still the opportunity to make some moves here with trades that can happen, and we'll see what happens there. The top of the draft next year, how enticing is it not to win?
It's really enticing because these guys are good, but it's also a 14% chance. But that's better than a 9% chance, right? Like, I mean, the league's done seemingly a good job in that, like, you only have a 14% chance. Like, it's not that beneficial. But there's only 3 teams that get a 14% chance, and I think the next gets 12.5, and then 10, and then so forth and so on. The one thing is that there does seem to be, like, a tank brigade. Like there's a lot of tanking, possibly, or rebuilding, or, it just happens, maybe it's happened to happen that the teams that are really, really good are so good that the Brooklyns, the Portlands, the Utahs, Charlotte just seems to be stuck in mud. Washington is clearly, Washington and Brooklyn are clearly Washington and Brooklyn are clearly like in the Cooper Flag game. Utah and Portland both feel like they're like a move away from the Cooper Flag game. Detroit, Charlotte, there's a third team here I'm forgetting on the Eastern Conference, are kind of added some pieces, but not quite enough. And so they're right in the Cooper Flag game. And then I think there's Atlanta is like Atlanta and Chicago. One of them is going to make the play in by accident.
Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto. And Toronto, I think, is kind of in that same group of like, I mean, they still have RJ Barrett and they still have Emmanuel Quickly, but you do kind of wonder what they're doing. Yeah. So there's like 7, 8, 9 teams playing for 3 spots. That's a little tough.
Not playing.
Yeah, right.
Tanking.
I mean, I don't know what to call it, right? I mean, it's an interesting, like, okay, so let's say let's just be totally honest about where we are. So we have our roster as it sits right now. And if we rolled out our, like, I mean, just got to ask yourself, like, what's really the value if we played our roster all out right now? I think if San Antonio's better and Houston's better, then we're 12th in the West.
Well, they were 12th in the West last year. I mean, Houston's already better.
Yeah, well, San Antonio just going to jump us. Now we're 13th in the West.
What about Memphis if they get job back?
Memphis is going to jump us too. I already assumed Memphis. So
it's 14. It's a
I mean, even if we go after it, we're 14, right? Like, so then, okay, well, if we play all of our best minutes and and I do agree with Will Hardy. Like, if you don't play your best players, you're sending some really weird messaging. But we got a bunch of players that are, like, right on the edge. And so is it really more valuable to play John Collins minutes at center than Walker Kessler minutes at center? Is it really more valuable to play Jordan Clarkson minutes than Bryce Sensabaugh minutes? Is it really more valuable to play, right? Like, it's just, like, I don't know who the next play. Like, it just gets really complicated in what the right thing to do is in all these moments when –
well, maybe
you have, like, the upside of what you're shooting for seems really, really hard. Now, do you go trade for Brandon Ingram and then you've got 2 bona fide 20-point-a-game scorers? You're probably pretty good then. Like, I don't know how good, but probably pretty good.
I think those decisions need to be made by the front office, not by the coach. I get why it's a weird decision when Will's saying it, because Will is speaking for himself. But if the decision's made in the offseason to go young, you can trade the veterans, and then it gets really clear what Will needs to do, and he doesn't have to send any weird messages if Clarkson and Collins have been moved to better teams.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. Like, Will Hardy has to play the players that give you the best chance to win and the players that deserve it. Like, if you go to training camp last year, and this was Will's point at the time, like, there was not a lot of doubt of whether Kelly Olynyk and John Collins and everybody else was better than Taylor Hendricks during training camp. Like, it was not close. Taylor wasn't ready. You couldn't just roll out Taylor Hendricks because he was the 9th pick of the draft to start the year. Look at John Collins, Kelly Olynyk, and be like, yeah, sorry, guys. Like, you're done. You do that, you've lost your locker room. You're not doing anything you want, and you're not even getting – and your young players aren't going to develop any because no one's engaged. So it is – you are correct. Like, the front office has to be really careful where they put their head coach.
Whatever they do, go all in. Is that the best way to go?
Yeah, I just think that sounds really good on our end. And then how you do that doesn't, in practicality, is not as, like, so let's say you're going all in tank.
Yeah.
Or all in development. We'll call it all in development.
Yeah.
So that means you're trading Jordan Clarkson and John Collins?
That's what it would mean to me. Let's assume that that's what's done. Let's assume those.
But, like, how?
Well, you pick up the phone.
Yeah,
but, like, don't you – I mean, I don't mean to be like a jerk here, but, like, we traded Kelly Olynyk, Simone Fontecchio, and Ochai Agbaji at last trade deadline, and we traded Mike Conley, Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, and others at the previous trade. If we'd had an offer for Jordan Clarkson, don't you think we would have done it?
Not necessarily.
Well, you're saying a good offer, an acceptable offer. Maybe you need to lower your standard.
Oh, so we're just like – so we're – but you're also – you got to bring – well, I guess we definitely have to, and the teams are – trading's actually become more difficult because all this first apron, second apron stuff is actually making it more difficult. But okay, but you also got to bring back $12 million.
Yeah.
So what are you bringing back? Or you got to bring back $14 million in case of Jordan and John Collins. You got to bring back like $26 million. Like, what are you bringing back?
Somebody you can waive in a draft pick. But
so
they wanted with Jordan.
So you're sending
reportedly,
Jordan Clarkson to the Clippers for Russell Westbrook, who's actually not making enough money. But the concept, waiving Russell Westbrook a second time, so he'll be a 2-time Jazz man.
Yes.
And then you're taking a second round draft pick.
Right. And then I think they wanted a first-round draft pick, and they couldn't get it at the trade deadline. But for all the reasons Jordan's not getting any younger, and the first and second apron aren't very forgiving. Now, maybe when the new TV deal kicks in, but that's a ways down the road, and Jordan's getting older, so are you going to get a first-round pick for him? I just don't know that window is going to be open.
Right. And so then the next question gets into, okay, well, wait a sec. What happens if we do the same thing we've been doing, which was we play the first 35, 40 games. Jordan's really good.
You draft 8th, 9th, or 10th. Yeah, you're going to draft 8th, 9th, or 10th because Jordan Clarkson's going to help win you some games that you wouldn't win if you didn't have him.
But Jordan plays well, and Milwaukee's a piece short, and Milwaukee gives up a future first to add Jordan scoring because Chris Middleton's hurt, and they're trying to make a run and keep Giannis happy, and so you get a first for Jordan, and then it's worth it.
It's worth it on the other end if you get the players you're looking for or get the results you're looking for. Maybe it's not worth it individually on that particular deal.
Right, but it's just, well, I mean, on the other end, you're like, what are you doing it for? 14% compared to a 9% chance? Like, what's the delta?
Yeah,
right?
I think it's more than that. I mean, they're talking about this draft in particular is 5 potential stars deep, so it's more than that.
Right, but if you're in the bottom 3, you still have an over 50% chance of being out of the top 4.
Understood, man. If it was a guarantee, then you would do it, and there would be no questions about it.
Well, it used to be, and so you just did it. I just think it's just really difficult, complicated, and when we all sit here and say, well, you just got to go all in either way, like I'm just not sure that either of those Robert Frost roads are actually as available as we're making them sound.
Right, but what are the results the other way?
Well, shouldn't Portland be doing the same thing? Like, shouldn't Portland be trading DeAndre Ayton and Jeremy Grant right now?
They never should have traded for Ayton in the first place.
Right, but they can't. I mean, they're in a little bit of a similar circumstance, right? Like shouldn't Washington move Kyle Kuzma by now?
Well, the only thing you say with Portland is that they were a 21-win team, and if the Jazz were a 21-win team, they would have had a better pick. Now, you still have to have the luck and the odds, but where the Jazz were, the odds of moving up weren't very good.
All right, so we might disagree on this one, and this one's not going to make me any friends, and probably not the most intelligent question I should ask, but we'll go with it anyway. Vegas line comes out tomorrow, I'll pretend. What do you think our over-under win total is with our roster constructed as it is right now?
25?
I was going to say 30. I was going to say 30.
Okay, then we don't need to trade anyone.
Unless they're impeding development of the younger guys.
Okay, well, that's right. But, like, if our win total is 25 to 30, we're in the bottom three. We're there. We're in as good a position as we can be for Ace Bailey and Cooper Flagg. Like, we don't need to do anything else. We're all in.
Ready, break.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's 32.5 probably, but that's my kind of thought.
Coop and Mark at the forwards. I like it. May you have a long winter.
What do you think the odds are of going the other way and going to New Orleans and getting a second piece and saying, okay, they're going to make a run at 45 wins, maybe 50 wins?
I mean, it's an interesting, like, let's say New Orleans just decides we want off from Brandon Ingram, which I don't think they're going to do, but let's just say, right? And the package becomes John Collins, Jordan Clarkson, and a first.
Uh-huh.
Do you have to do it?
I like it. But I mean,
it increases your value of your roster a great deal, right?
Mm-hmm. And if you want, can you, depending on how, do you think there'd be value if you decided to move Ingram in a year or two?
Right. I mean, I've always been on this side of the issue. If I'm being fully transparent, I've been in on Zach LaVine. I've been in on any of these guys because I think they lead you to make your next trade better. Like it's hard to tell what big game hunting actually is right now. Like Mikal Bridges is not the biggest game in the world, and you got 5 first-round draft picks and didn't want any players. So maybe it's just assets, and maybe trading players to get big game hunting isn't actually the way to do it anymore. But it does feel like if you had decided that Trae Young was someone you wanted and you had somebody else and you had some roster players on it, it'd be easier for you to get Trae Young if you had some pieces of your puzzle.
David, we will stop right there for now.
I think
or not.
I think what's important here on this conversation, and we're trying to do it, and I thought we did it fairly well, is it's just, like, I keep hearing people say we have no plan. Like, no, there's clearly a plan, but it's not like you're not an isolated business in which you just get to execute everything you want to execute. You're in the midst of an ecosystem where other people have to play along, and there are rules and things of that nature which are making it so that it's not as easy to execute as you probably, would like it to be, right? Like, I mean, I think it's really interesting to look at the teams that we think are tanking and then look at the players on their rosters. Like, well, it doesn't make sense entirely that Detroit just signed Tobias Harris, and it doesn't make sense that Washington still has Kyle Kuzma. It doesn't make sense that Portland still has Jeremy Grant and DeAndre Ayton, and it might not make sense to the Jazz fans that they still have John Collins and Jordan Clarkson.
That's why these teams are at the bottom. They're not making sense. It's a talking head song. Stop making sense.
There's nothing better than Friday mornings with DJ and PK. Well, there's a few things, but
ooh,
hey now, Vegas,
you're an all-star.
Vegas at 120 degrees. That's better.
Can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait.
All right, David, we appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right, talk to you later. Bye.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Shehan Jarajo will join us, National College Football writer for CBS Sports, 9 o'clock. Last takedown on Big 12 Media Day.
I talked to him when we were there.
How many national media people were there? Because the Pac-12,
I have to know who they are.
The Pac-12 shared a week.
I'd say 20.
Did you recognize all that?
I didn't recognize all of them, but I recognized many of them.
I was going to say all the people you know. There's obviously always people getting jobs, and you haven't met them yet, but you know who Dennis Dodds is.
I mean, I don't know all. I didn't recognize all the people I know, but I saw several of them. So you're making a point, and you're accurate in making that point.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Stay with us.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
It's Eduardo Encina covering the Tampa Bay Lightning. Big trade that the Utah Hockey Club made during the draft, acquiring Mikhail Sergachev.
Sergachev, no question, a number one left side defenseman. He's a guy that, any team can really build around on their blue line. He's offensive minded. He can run a power play. I think when you look at all of that, the Utah Hockey Club is getting a great guy on and off the ice that they can really build around. I mean, I think that, his time is really one of the consummate leaders in Tampa. He was going to have to wait for that. I think there he really goes into there and he can be that guy who can really lead a blue line into the future. And as a reporter, I can't say enough good things about Mikhail Sergachev because he's one of those guys who you really love watching the way he plays on the ice, and he's just, one of the best guys in the room and to cover on a daily basis.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 1280 The Zone, powered by KSLSports.com.
DJ and PK brought to you in part by America First Credit Union. Get the official debit cards of the Utah Jazz, University of Utah Sports, Real Salt Lake, and more exclusively at America First Credit Union. It's a mystery, PK.
Got no history?
Exactly. Well, there's a little bit of history, but there's not much. But there's potential.
I'm your bandit, underhanded, want everything that you've got to hide?
Jonathan Gavoni at Draft Express says, great few days at the NBA Academy Games in Atlanta. Some high-level talent coming out of Africa, South America, Asia, and Australia. The gym was packed with college coaches and NBA scouts. And he goes into a couple of players who were there. But I bring that up because BYU just landed a recruit from the academy in Africa.
What's his name? McPoop?
No.
I don't know. You were running through like 14 different pronunciations earlier this morning.
Khadim Mboup. I said Mbop and he said Mboup.
I went and listened to him.
You say goodbye.
I say hello.
Hello.
I listened to a video last night of him pronouncing his own name. It's Mboup.
Oh, there it is, Mboup. All right. 6'9". Now, he's only 17 years old. He turns 18 in September, so maybe with lower expectations. Maybe he's not.
Heck no. This is KY.
They're not all one and done, PK. They're not all one and done.
Well, I think he might have some age thing going on there, but yeah.
Two and done.
Great.
The hype grows.
Even better. And then you get him for 2 years. The hype is at a fever pitch for BYU basketball. People were asking Tom Holmoe about BYU basketball in Vegas.
At football media days.
Yeah.
And football people don't usually do that.
That would be precisely, according to my knowledge, never.
Never. Right.
Yeah. But it's justified. The hype is incredible. And I asked him about, how are these guys going to simulate? Because I think that's not a serious concern, but it's a concern.
No, I would go with serious concern.
I mean, BYU, you got rules.
Right. And it's different if you're not a church member, but isn't it more different if you're coming from another continent?
Well, it depends on what you've been exposed to in that particular continent and what your lifestyle is.
And what age you came at and how long you've been in the United States.
I mean, it's an individual thing. I don't know that it necessarily matters where you are in the world, but what have you been exposed to?
Yeah, but on top of all the church rules, is there going to be language and culture on top of that?
Yeah, but I think that's going to be anywhere.
It is, but is it? It would.
Well,
now we're talking about how it will impact the BYU basketball team.
On the language side, BYU is pretty stringent. You have to be able to. They have what they call a TOEFL test.
You got to speak English.
You got to be able to pass that test to be able to enroll in the school itself. So that part of it should.
They don't let they in unless you know English.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, all that stuff. But hopefully, I would think that. In today's world, especially they're getting high-level kids. And so you don't need to go there if these rules are just going to be too difficult for you. right?
Yeah. Tom
Agor can go anywhere.
Right.
So he wants to go there, and listening to Travis Hansen, who has a relationship with the family, he wants to come here and ball and hang out and do what he wants to do to get himself ready to play in the NBA. Great. It seems like at that level, you're getting a serious kid, and with the Catchings kid, if you're gonna come here to mess around, don't come here. You're gonna come here to learn to get better and to get skill development to prepare yourself minimally for a professional career in Europe, but possibly for a professional career in the NBA. So I think they're okay on that. I mean, Slovis didn't come here to party.
Came here to get ready for the NFL.
Right. And so adhere to their rules, whether you agree with them or not. Who cares? They've got every right to put up as many rules as they want. And I also think that they have not broadcast it, but I think they're a little looser now. I mean, you just look at it. And nobody cares. No one's going, wow, how dare they, man, getting away from what we stand for, blah, 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 blah. Maybe there might be some people out there, I get that, but, you got to adapt to a degree. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think, anyway. I don't want to preach. I'm not qualified to preach and tell people how to live their lives under any circumstance whatsoever. But get it together. It's going to be fascinating to see how it does develop because of the fact that you're bringing kids from all over the planet. You got some holdovers, but you got a lot of newcomers that just come in with all this hype. They've never had this collection of this much hype ever. I mean, Sean Bradley and there was a couple other guys, I guess, they had it. But now you're getting like 5-6 guys that BYU never even would have thought to go after, and they're committing to come here and all of them. Now, this kid, I assume he'll be arriving on campus shortly. The other guys are already here. They're working out because they've loosened the rules on what the NCAA allows that you can do in the summer. I understand they went to the Summer League game the other night as a team, and this is going to be incredible. And they're already in an awesome basketball league. I've said this. It surprised me how much I got into Big 12 basketball last year. Saturdays where I watched more college basketball. Not quite, but I almost treated it like a Saturday football where it's 10 to midnight.
One game after another.
Yeah, wall to wall.
The Big 12 did seem to schedule them differently than the Pac-12. In the Pac-12, it seemed like they're just a lot of night games, primetime games, overlapping. And you just couldn't watch them all at the same time.
Right.
And the Big 12, it did look like there's a noon game, there's a 2 game, there's a 4 o'clock game.
And they're all going down to the wire.
Yeah.
In exciting games, packed arenas.
So many ranked teams.
It was really, really fun for me. I didn't anticipate that. And now I'm going to anticipate it this year. As far as I was just talking to Mark Harlan about this the other day and about them with the broadcasts that they're going to have to do. And how he said Mark said, well, distribution was the Pac-12's issue. But the product was good, and they didn't have to worry about it. Now they have to worry about it. And what are they going to do? And then next year, Paul Kirk was standing there, their communications guy. He's telling me, well, next year will be more. And how are they going to handle all that stuff? And that relates more to the Olympic sports and the non-rev sports, but it's still something that they've got to be prepared for. And obviously they made a big move, and they're going down that road. And BYU, and they talked about BYU's already been doing it, so it was no big adjustment for them because it's what they do.
All it is with BYU is where they send it.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's mostly Olympic sports, but it's not completely.
No, it's not.
Any game that's on the Pac-12 network, and they're just, unless they make a sudden transformation in basketball, they're just not going to be the team that gets picked up very often. So they're going to have to do a bunch of men's basketball games.
Right, but I think they've got their crew already there.
And they'll probably have to do a football game. Now, maybe they'll have to do 2 or 3. We'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah, it would be if they're playing a crummier team. I don't think they would be regulated.
And even as
there.
a ranked team, at home, and you only have to worry about it when you're at home. So if it's on the road, then it's
right.
It's the responsibility of the school that's at home. But the Big Sky game right out of the gate, those games are going to fall on them every year, assuming they keep playing them every year. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Stay with us.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G. It's what you want.
Do you know I was babysat until 8th grade? Dolores Arnold used to babysit me every day after school. And
Dolores?
Her husband, yeah.
Like how you got 220-pound 8th grade hands.
Can we not focus on that?
You're like, hey, Dolores. Hi, Hans. I think it's funny the thought of a 8th grade Hans Olsen probably pushing 2 bills, sitting in and being babysat.
You guys let me know when you're done so I can finish my story.
Tell us more about Dolores.
Anyways, her husband, Don, liked MASH.
Sitting next to Don on the couch watching MASH.
Hey, Don, can I borrow your shaver?
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest, and then listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, and it's sponsored by Hercules Credit Union and Beehive Meals. Sniggledorf David James Jr., Sniggledorf III. Did you ever hear that song?
There were like 27 names when you're done with me.
Please come to Boston for the springtime.
I have heard that song, yes.
We can sell your paintings on the sidewalk. But then it's like, no, boy, come home to Tennessee. I used to change the words when I moved to Arizona and all the girls back in New Jersey, and it would be, please come home, boy, to Parsippany instead of Tennessee, as they wanted me to come back. Well, anyways, a guy named Dave Loggins, I don't think it's any relation to your guy, Kenny, but he just died yesterday, 75 years old. Now, it's an old tune, and that's probably 50 years old at least, but in reading the obit, I found out there's a sports connection that is still relevant every April.
What is it?
It's relevant every April. Guess.
Opening day. What's it got to do with opening day?
Does it involve Augusta, Georgia?
Yes.
Oh.
He wrote that tune.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, so he's actually...
That little melody.
Yes, that's his.
And he was getting paid every time they came.
I suppose so. But you go look it up. Dave Loggins, Loggins, just died. I believe it was yesterday. And I was reading his the bio on him, and he had a number of tunes. He was more of a songwriter for a lot of big groups rather than a performer. He did have that tune. I think they said it topped out at number 2 or something.
More Bernie Taupin than Elton John.
Yeah.
Just go with the movie.
They listed one of the things that he wrote, and he wrote Augusta, which is the music that they use. This is Dave Loggins. Yeah. So how about that?
Well, let's get Bob Casper on. He'll have something to say.
We're going to have Bob next week.
There it is.
Dave Loggins now, 75 years old, and sucks that he died and all that stuff. But he left something that'll last.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll ever change that. I mean, they're not exactly looking to make a whole bunch of wholesale changes here.
No, they leave hundreds of millions of dollars on the table because they don't want
I mean, it is literally a tradition like any other when you think about it.
They walk away from money. What an unusual tradition.
I would never do that. My mother from the great beyond would curse me. Come back and haunt me in my dreams and my nightmares as I sweat away with my air condition not working in the hottest run ever in this.
Yeah, what an awful time to have.
It had to break down in July, didn't it?
I told earlier that the air condition is not working. We had to turn it off, and I noticed neither of you said, "Well, I got a spare room." Neither of you said it. I'm just saying. Well, I would be there to aid both of you.
PK, I can tell you, my house is filled up.
Not if you told her to go visit the in-laws or her parents. Okay. This guy, man, he's got wings.
Well, I know. I was going to say, what about the
wings, floors?
Guest quarters or
tearing
something?
it apart right now.
Oh, okay.
Tearing it apart.
All I require is air conditioning, not 5 stars.
Just need a spare room. That's all that matters.
No furniture in that room. They're tearing it up.
I just found out that I'll be down at, what do they call it? I call it the Exposition Center.
The Ultimate Sports Bash.
I know, but
the Mountain America Credit Union.
Down there across the street, just south of
9400 South and State.
North of Jordan High School.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm going to be down there for like 4+ hours today.
We're going to be broadcasting live all day.
And we have a question, and we need to reward the listeners just getting to work at 9 o'clock, who's just about to go in. They need a laugh.
You send them glossies?
The Sports Bash is Friday and Saturday, appearing Friday with the best possible moderator, Jaron Hall, Britton Covey, Cam Rising, Colton Swan, and Sharif Shah. What questions do you have? And Rock at RockMonster1232 says, ask Cam if he plans to stay at Utah well into his 40s.
Maybe he could be the quarterback coach.
They don't really do that anymore. Usually the OC is the quarterback coach now.
Well, they just deregulated that whole thing. You're able to hire.
Yeah, so now you can go back to it, right?
Well, yeah, there's no rules anymore.
No rules.
If I have 50 guys.
Play ball.
They're going to.
Whatever you want. Yeah. Yeah.
Albus wants to know, that lineup's fast. How many of them could beat McKay Hillstead in a 100-meter dash? That's my question. He was sub-11 in high school.
Okay.
I'm thinking Sharif Shah at 50, whatever, 3, can't run a sub-1100 anymore.
Well,
at one point he was fast.
But this isn't. You have to be able to run in a different manner. It's not just a straight sprint a la the 40-yard dash.
Got to have a little wiggle.
Yeah.
Look at Britton Covey on that Rose Bowl touchdown.
Reno Mahe made the NFL. He wasn't particularly NFL fast, but the man's feet.
Quick, change directions.
Yeah, it was. I lived in the area. I still live in the area. I haven't moved. When he played at Brighton, and I heard people tell me, you got to go see this kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I went up there, and nobody ever got a clean shot at the kid at the high school level.
He put a move on a safety, spun the kid around, the kid fell down with no contact. I saw it. I was standing on the sideline at the 25-yard line. He got past the linebackers. It was him versus the safety. Little shoulder, little knee, little left, little right. Yeah. Kid spun around, fell down, and he ran into the end zone.
Right.
That poor kid never had a chance.
He was just an incredible high school player.
I only saw that one other time in high school, and it was another future NFL running back who did it to a linebacker.
Yeah, so, and Hillstead is going to have an opportunity, and it's great that he's fast, but I don't know that you need to be. Britton Covey has enough speed. He's already been in the league 2 years, and he's 5'8", 160, and as he said, he's white.
Unbelievable.
It just doesn't happen.
It's very, very rare.
I was going to do the thing for Jaron and Britton, but we have a switch. I'll be doing Kyle Whittingham at 2. Hans Olsen will be doing Jaron and Britton Covey at 3. We've just made a switch on the fly.
Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
Shay Reja, national college football writer for CBS Sports, joins us next to talk Big 12 media days and Big 12 football. Are the Utes really that good? Are the Cougars really going to be that far south in the standings? We'll talk with Shay on next. Stay with us.